Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Talks 21. Today we dive into the world of architecture. We'll explore architecture as the path to societal change, as a bridge to nature, as a space for human connection, and as a tool that shapes our daily reality as well as our future. Our focus today isn't on trends, but on both. That is why we are joined by three extraordinary guests who share not only deep expertise in their field, but also a guiding ethos to create this respect for people, society, and the planet. My first guest is Eva Lepetrek. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Marco Mayo is our great honored second guest.
Thank you, Karel, for having us.
And Karel Smejkal is our architect of psychology.
Thank you, and pleasure.
Eva is an architect, urbanist, designer, and writer with a remarkable story. From Prague, her journey led through London and San Francisco all the way to Shanghai, where she designed skyscrapers, large-scale mixed-use complexes, and entirely new city districts for hundreds of thousands of people. With dozens of projects completed worldwide, she became one of the youngest leading architects in major Chinese studios. After moving to New Caledonia in South Pacific, she founded E-Studio, working on commissions across continents. Returning to the Czech Republic after 20 years, she is now principal architect at Kasua. Eva advocates the concept of vertical villages, skyscrapers envisioned as vibrant community spaces that foster connection and community. Her architectural vision is rooted in a deep context, from social and economic impacts to ecology, and ultimately, a long-term vision of cities as living organisms of the future. Our second guest is Marco Mayo. Marco is a Portuguese architect living and working in Prague since 2008, founder of the studio Marco Mayo Architects. He has an international background since his studies in Italy, practice with Portuguese and Czech offices, and worldwide works for Škoda Auto. Nowadays, he is teaching at the CTU in Prague and cooperating with other universities, mainly in Europe and Latin America. He is active on the bilateral relations Czech-Brazil for the promotion of Czech modern architecture with yearly exhibitions and conferences. Additionally, his workshops about shaping the light, the architecture space defined by light, are given worldwide. Light plays a key role in his work as a material, emotional, and transformative tool of spatial connection. His works are based on deep understanding of the context, communities, and joint actions with local institutions in the Czech Republic. Our third guest is Karel Smejkal. Welcome.
Thank you.
Karel is an architect, university lecturer, researcher, and co-founder of the Inspirely Awards. He has served as vice chairman of the Czech Society of Architects, director of American Institute of Architects for Eastern Europe, and founded the discipline of applied psychology of architecture at CTU in Prague. His work blends scientific research with empathy and attentive listening, demonstrating that architecture is not only about space, but also about relationships, about our inner states, our sense of responsibility, our needs that are often invisible at first glance. Karel believes the future of architecture lies not just in technology and materials, but in returning to philosophy, intuition, and a deeper understanding of both people and nature. Dear friends, please can you share with me what is architecture? What has been the meaning of architecture for people in history and nowadays, and perhaps also in the future?
Me? Okay. It's a difficult question, of course, but because I'm teaching psychology of architecture, so I am searching for the correct answer. So nowadays, for me, architecture is a sort of artificial environment, because it's very important when you are an architect and you create something. It's a big difference when you call it like an art or piece of art or tool, or you you start to think about it, about environment. So for me, architecture is artificial and environment. What do you think?
Well, architecture, I think, is the real part of our lives. More than artificial is the real method that we have to shape the spaces where we live. So this artificiality, maybe it comes from some moments of dreaming, inspiration, but in fact, all of us, we try, is like, in fact, to make it concrete, to realize it, to make it in the way that people can feel the space and be in the space. So it has like this real, like a real perspective of existence. And in fact, without architecture, you cannot perceive like the spaces where we live.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the royal discipline that combines the rational way of thinking and the artistic way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's just real functional space, it's civil engineering. If it's just very something beautiful that gives us emotion, it's just art. But we don't live in art, right? So architecture really should combine both of those two ways together, give us emotion, but at the same time to be functional and make our lives better.
Mm-hmm. And you work with architecture connected to psychology. How can you maybe say a few words about the connection?
Definitely. When you look at everything what people are doing, everywhere is psychology inside, because architecture is something what we create for to satisfy human needs and their demands. So it is a relation between the people who create the architecture and people who are using architecture. So there is psychology.
Mm-hmm.
That's my answer.
Mm-hmm. And how has architecture evolved through times? How important was it 100, 500 years ago? How is it today?
I think the paradigm is changing. Like in last century, in 80s or late 90s, we would see architect as the big ego figure that would design some monuments for him and build, or later build the monuments for him to leave something as a. And now I see architect more like a communicator and also like a humble servant of the society. Like we have a huge responsibility towards the society. So we have to think about all the needs, about the social, culture, political, aesthetical, and economical needs of the society and implement it in the design.
It is your expertise that you design skyscrapers to become nice places to live for communities. How this can be actually done? Because it looks like a skyscraper is some structure.
Right. When I visited New York City, I just realized that it's not really nice, right? It's just like a big chunk of metal or glass or steel, and that it's like there is no spirit behind. So there was something missing. And when I visited Tokyo, it was a completely different experience. You saw the city is very dense, a lot of people, high rises, skyscrapers, but still there is the emotion behind, there is the authenticity, and there is the human story. So that's what I like about it. And I think the facts are that like in next 5 years, 80% of the whole globe will be living in the cities. So we have to prepare for it, and we cannot just say we'll be designing some beautiful small projects, but we have to prepare our society for this big move, this big change.
Mm-hmm. And what is, let's say, like a crucial point in that design so that it's most natural for people to live there? Is it like a place with flowers and a garden?
I was giving a lecture about friendly buildings, and they asked me, what does it mean, friendly buildings? And for me, the answer is to incorporate nature and the community together, like hand in hand, and so that makes the real impact on our lives. So when we go to the office, we're there the whole day, we have like nature within the building, within the city, so we don't have to go out, but the nature comes to us.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, I really believe that stronger relationship to nature is so important for our future.
Yeah.
How is it with the future of architecture?
Well,
what will change? What are the new ways?
what are the challenges?
What are the challenges?
What are the
Yeah.
challenges?
Yeah.
I think the future of architecture is about the future of the society itself, because like how this society wants to preserve, in fact, what we got from the past, and the way that we perceive it in the present, and the way that we will want to live in the future. And the future of our cities, like, I don't want to say that is in our hands, like architects, but it's in our hands as a population. Yeah, all of us, we have to understand that the space belongs to all of us. It's not like the responsibility of some that have to take care about the space itself. But the future is to be conscious that every space belongs to everyone, and this feeling or understanding, we will make sure that we will take care of the nature, the public space, the common space, and without that perception, we are just like dividing the society. Society, I mean, like the way that we live. So it's very important to understand that we are responsible, just not for my garden, but also for a little bit of the space out of my garden. Yeah. So that is your space. It's your space. But we should be aware of that. That belongs to us. Not that I'm not the owner. Yes, we are. It's our planet. We have to jump the fence and take care of that. So the future of cities and the future of architecture, it's for all of us.
And can you say some specific examples how the architecture design relates to our style of living? If the people, let's say, perhaps we could attribute that people are in a separated, non-friendly society, the architecture is like that. If people come more together, become more conscious, what changes?
Yeah, we can promote that the way that we design. Even if we design like in the kind of horizontality of the cities or verticality, the way that we perceive that design can influence the way that people they communicate, or they share the respect to the others. So when you design, for example, urbanism or buildings next to each other, you are not designing the buildings. You are designing the space between the buildings. Yeah. So having that space is the moment that you are giving the chance for the community to be and to exchange their living. Like maybe we, like elders, we try to protect all the time our space, our family, but our kids, they don't do that. And if you allow them to play in the same garden, in the same playground, they will do it.
Yes, of course.
They will do it. But then when they will be a little bit older, they will grill together. They will share the same table together in the same space, because the memories that they will create are the memories that we are doing for them. So our responsibility is to make this type of middle spaces in the cities that allowed people to be.
So we want to create spaces that motivates, inspires people to come together, to talk, to heal themselves.
Definitely, definitely. I think it's in the Czech society or in the Czech way of living. I think it's crucial. Like the way that we perceive the space in Czech is very different from the way that we perceive the space in Portugal. Yeah, in Portugal, the streets are our streets. We use the streets. We grill in the streets.
That is true.
Yeah, we make sardines in the streets.
So
in Czech, you need to invite someone to be at that hour to grill in the street. In Portugal, just put the grill outside. You use the space, and this is very important because like little things. The smell of the sardine will invite your neighbor to come to have a glass of wine. But this is the basic of communication in society, and we have to promote that. Yeah.
But as I remember, we had the same when I was young, when I was child. But now
it is true, actually.
when we were nowhere. Yeah, and it
was much more open.
Yeah. So everything is changing. The society is changing as well. So for me, I wish that perhaps the future of architecture would be I call it for myself, invisible architecture. Because when I think about how we use architecture, we spend our lives in interior. We need interior because we cannot live outside. But when we go out, I don't need my house anymore. I would like to enjoy grass, forest, okay, shopping, something. So I think that maybe in the future, we can use underground because of the technologies, we will feel that everything is fresh and we like it. And then when we go outside, we will be in park, nice forest, we will enjoy. So this is because we all travel a lot and we see that all the cities are almost similar everywhere in the world. The same shopping centers, highways, everything is the same. And nature is missing.
Mhm.
So we need to invite nature into our cities. Whenever I'm in the plane and seeing Czech Republic, the lights are every 2 kilometers are the villages, 2-3 kilometers. So where is the nature? We need to invite nature into the cities, and then we will enjoy our streets again.
Well, I agree with Marco that people don't care that much about the facade, if
Mhm.
it's a curtain wall and glass or what kind of stone that we use as architects. They just understand the space in between the buildings, right? And like we design our cities in last century based on cars, and we forgot completely about human
People.
being.
Mm.
So we just design like which way you go with your car, where you're gonna
Mhm.
park your car, and your car will park on the best possible spot, like closest to the right where you work. So on the beautiful plaza where you could have restaurants and play pétanque with your friends, and kids could be like jumping or playing around. You have parking lot. So we have to take care of this and educate our society. Like in Netherlands, it's already there. In France, they understand that the human being has a bigger value than a car. So that's the major shift, and that will make our cities much more livable.
Mm. So what are the new approaches of getting more nature into the cities, incorporating nature?
If may I?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I designed when I was designing a city for 1 million people in China. I got inspired with the best cities that I knew in the world, which rank always in the top 10 or top 5 with the best quality of life, and those are Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. So I went there and I really did my research. Why those cities are so like great for living, why the families love to be there, and why it's so vibrant, right? And like safe and everything, why it's such a great environment. And so I got inspired by that, and I tried to implement it in my design to pass the same quality.
And is there like some specific examples? What are like points that are?
One of the point that it's walkable, that really it's
Yeah.
based on the human being, the way you walk, the speed you walk. Because if you walk, you see much more details right on the building than if you drive through the city 50 kilometers per hour. So if you drive through the city, you just see like blocks, glass blocks, and you don't care about the details. But if you walk, you really notice the details and the material, and everything you can touch like has a huge influence on you. And also when I design it, now we speak all the time about 15-minute cities, but that term was used the first time in 2015 or 16, and I designed my city in 2009. So there was like a revolutionary thing when I used this term or use this method. Before that, the cities were based on zoning, so you would have zone for living, for residential, zone for shopping, zone for offices, and I mixed it together, and I made the zoning like vertical. So you would get the retail, the streets, and then you would have offices and then residential on the top.
Right,
So,
and people can walk only.
right,
Mm.
and you can get pretty much everywhere within 15 minutes. So. And
Yeah, we can make it 21 minutes, but
21 minutes, okay, within 21 minutes you can get pretty much everywhere. And it was based on the canals that were already on the side, so you could go to work with a boat instead of a bus, right? So like, yeah.
So, but back to your question, 500 years ago, cities for cars? No, it was for humans.
Yeah.
And now we figured out that our cities are not for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. so back.
Mhm.
Cars have to be get rid of them, and we need to open it for people. So,
So the future is minimizing the cars into the city, except perhaps for residents, or how will that
No,
work for parking,
I think it's
or down below Earth?
I think the answer is shared. That we will not
Okay.
own
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
if you want to go, for a weekend, you maybe. But if you will move within the city, you will just share
Mhm.
with your application. You will just see like 5 cars on the street, and you will choose the one that correspond the most to your ideas or feelings, and then you just leave it like the bike or whatever else. So.
Mhm.
So I think in sharing, yeah.
Mhm.
Or perhaps Disneyland concept. Yeah, cars down, and we live on the up of that. Yeah, maintenance
If you
is
design a
hidden.
new city, maybe that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
tunnels would help certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because now when there are cars, the people are going down, like, to cross the street, not on the surface.
But-
We are going underground, but the cars should go underground.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but also I think the response is like to create small blocks within the city. Barcelona is great example, right? The blocks have 75 meters by 75 meters, so that can accommodate a hospital, a school, a residential area, a park inside, a big shopping mall, like whatever. And New York City has 80 by 40. So like in those kind of cities, the traffic really spreads very quickly, like in Hong Kong. But if you build a new city like in US and or China, and you have 300 or 500 meters block, then you are stuck with the car because you cannot turn left, you cannot turn
Mm.
right. So then you create traffic jams, and like it gets all together.
I believe like the most important as well is like to involve the urban planning in general of the cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a crucial good development planning. And we are not talking about developers, but we are talking about the authorities, about the institutions that have the responsibility to do so. And they should be the ones helping us to define the strategy for the city. What IPER started to do years ago is something I would say great, because until 15 years ago, I think like Prague was not thoughtful as one structure. It was completely divided.
Mhm.
And nowadays, when you go to camp, to IPER, to these institutions, you understand that there is a group of people and professionals that are trying to draft the extension of these cities. And we are not like removing the cars, or we don't have to. But a good planning can allow the cars, the people, the coexistence of these elements in the city, because they are important. Yeah, you have a children, like how to take the children to the school. Okay, you can use public transport, but not all the time is possible. So that we cannot just like remove nowadays the car from the way that the society lives.
No.
But by the time maybe we can go in that direction that you mentioned. So a good planning is crucial nowadays for every city, I would say, or even every village. Like a good base that shows how in the next 50 years that city, that region could grow. Then you can merge your nature between the villages, because the nature will come to the village can grow at the same time, and we are not like blocking anything. Yeah, this can develop, can grow, the nature can be integrated, but we understand why. And if this part will be for a developer, let it be, but it's controlled.
Right.
And I believe that every single village should have a plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because now they are being taken by little developers that they don't have a sense of centrality of the village.
Yeah, so they just have their place, and they do for their part, regardless of the...
You have like 100 people living in the village. They do a development of 100. The center of the village doesn't exist anymore, or exist. Where people are meeting, where they are buying, where they are sharing. So there is a disbalance. And this disbalance, I think it causes a lot of problematics in our little villages, in our cities. So I believe that every, for example, region should have like someone that
Who
would
is
lead
responsible
that
for the
would lead
architect design?
for the
Yeah.
structure,
Mhm.
and this structure can be in different levels. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can make the development of the highways. You can make development of the railways. You can make development of small airports. But this is the future. But without this hierarchy of principles,
Mhm.
you cannot merge in 20 years what you would like to merge, because the structure doesn't exist. And this is
Yeah.
crucial to do now.
Yeah, basically is to have a vision for each district, for each city, for the whole region, and for the country.
And for the country,
Like 30 or 50
in the
years
end.
we're talking.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we see that the best cities with the best architecture in Czech Republic, like Litomyšl, they
Mhm.
really have a long-term vision, like 30 years, and they fulfill it. It doesn't matter who is in the
In the
at
lead.
the mayor, at the city hall. So
Mhm.
the
So this
results.
is how to do it practically. Is it a matter of good representative in the city hall, like a mayor, good mayor?
If,
Yeah.
To
if,
take
if I may, it's about responsibility.
Yeah,
And that's the problem.
yeah, sure.
Because you need to think about responsibility. And in psychology of architecture, we made a definition what it means being responsible. It means that you would like to create the reality. Because irresponsible people, they are destroying. Responsible, they are creating. But responsibility depends on the values and traits. Values show the determination or the direction, and values the scope.
Mhm.
So, for example, my daughter, I can do a CO of there in my company. She can understand about the values. She need to work good. But whenever she had to pay invoice, she's not capable of responsibility because she don't understand if to pay or not. She will ask me because she don't know how to lead a company. So, how to teach architects to take a responsibility for the humans? To teach them psychology.
I would believe that if people go to study architecture, they already understand that it goes with a huge responsibility.
No,
No?
no, definitely not. I'm sorry.
He teaches, yeah.
I'm sorry. No.
Tell me that.
No.
Okay.
If you want to take responsibility about the bus with the people, you need to take the drive license.
Mhm.
So you need to study how to drive bus. If you want to create architecture, you can do two things. One, to study architecture, constructions, or together with study to understand people. But unfortunately, the science research demands of human is not architecture, it's psychology. That's why applied psychology is connecting the small part of psychology into the architecture field. Because if you, as an architect, would like to understand people, first you have to start with you. You
Yeah,
need to
sure.
understand yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, big architects or experienced architects, they know a lot. But the young ones, they understand only the technologies, only the base principles. But they need to start to study how to be responsible for the people, because you are responsible,
Yeah, sure.
horribly responsible.
Yeah, because you have the power. You have the power. You're the creator, right? You create ideas, and the ideas are materialized.
And
And-
people are just live there.
Yeah, people live there their entire life. They put all their money to buy an apartment. They
Yeah.
paid for the next 30 years. But also architects have the power to create ideas and change society. That's why it's extremely,
Challenge.
yeah, we have to be careful because we have big responsibility.
Yeah, but when we speak about young generation, like all of us, we were already in that time. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember.
that we don't have the sense of responsibility that we will take care when we develop our career. Yeah, we are, I believe, like dreaming that we can make our best to the world. Me as a scout boy, my wish was to leave this world better than what I found.
Mm-hmm.
So architecture can help me to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is just a dream. Yeah, and so jumping to architecture, then you get the tools that allows you to really understand all the principles that you have to merge with the tools to get in the level that you can really give an answer to the society. This takes time. You cannot like just teach it in the school. You need the practice, you need the mistakes, you need to go through a process that my teachers, I still remember, you have still 10, 15 years until the time that you'll be responsible for something. And it is about that.
Yeah.
Architect needs the time to practice, to test, to make good things, bad things. And by that experience, you really start to get the knowledge how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
That's why you see like a lot of old architects still practicing. You know, like César Vieira, he's 90, the Portuguese. He's 90, he still practice. Why? I believe that he has the sense of knowledge that can help to solve the real problems. And this is beautiful. Like I hope to come to my 90s. I'm telling all this all the time to my wife that, hey, I want to work until 90s if possible. Because I believe it will be a kind of knowledge that you have that you cannot just put it aside. You have to give it back. You have to share it. You have to teach it, to educate it, to give to the others. So the younger is like how much we can give, more we will receive. So that's why I believe in the faculties is the space that more than to try to teach them, we need to lead them to learn how to share problems, difficulties, and solutions.
You can only show your own example. You cannot do anything else.
You can, exactly. Or you can show the other examples to balance or to compare. But the moment that you understand why you are comparing is because you have the knowledge for that. So I think it's crucial to have that sense of responsibility that when it comes to us, that we should remove our jacket of architect and be just like normal people to give to the others the best of us. And we architects, we have really a lot of responsibility because not because of what we want to solve, is because how much we know, I would say. I don't want to say it wrongly, but the amount of knowledge that we receive by our practice, it's huge. And this amount of knowledge should be given, shared, that can grow all the time and create systems that helps after the society or the youngers to make it even better than me. Or you. So I think it's our responsibility at the moment.
The responsibility is a crucial element of our lives, especially in today's world where everything is changing. And so, for example, how would you design a new city from scratch, taking these elements, these factors all into account? How should it look like?
Well, definitely I would ask help to a lot of professionals to be in the same table to discuss it. I believe nowadays I don't have a knowledge to do a city from the scratch. Definitely. The way that the tools, the solutions that we can have for the cities, they are so diverse and so developed. I believe a new city needs like a good team of professionals in different fields that can help to create the best principles for that. And based in that discussion, then of course we have the sense of starting to create the proportions, directions, axes. The Romans, Cardos Decumanus, or other cities, how they were created, the garden cities. There are like too many principles how to create cities. But we cannot just apply different principles to one place. So we need to understand where we live so that we can bring the best solution to that place.
Right, and okay, different options.
And there are different options, I will not make like a Portuguese city in the Czech Republic nowadays, I will not put a church in the center of the square. The Czechs are not going to the church. So why should make that mark in the territory? That doesn't make any sense for the community, because even there is sorry, but almost there is no communities. Yeah, so the sense of the way that you live has to be designed according to that.
But it needs to be respected the way we live, but at the same time, we want to motivate people to come together more,
Definitely.
to communicate. Yeah?
Definitely. Like we can create that, definitely. Maybe we know some of the good practices, principles, how to do that. But we shouldn't force such a culture
Sure.
to change
Yeah.
because of our own approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you ask me, Marco, can you design a city in Czech Republic? I will be honest, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I need to call Eva or Karel or someone that could help me to understand what is the best solution, in fact, to design a city in the Czech Republic.
Okay, it's very interesting. Nevertheless, there still might be some general rules, like some ratios, like golden ratio, right? I believe you also do some work on it. So how do these techniques, how do they apply with today's knowledge of mathematics and history?
From my perspective, we are trying now to prepare the research. We would like to prove if it matters, if you use the golden ratio in the designing of anything, any sculptures, if the society will recognize it, the quality of it. So, because I was a little bit curious that there are a lot of these, let's say, methods and helps or well-known names like the golden ratio. But when I see how our student works, they don't care about it. They use it sometimes, but like only story behind. Yeah, I feel this. Yeah, because when I ask, for example, my colleagues at the faculty if there are some rules how to, for example, design. What is the first, second, third? They told me that it's not exact. Yeah. So, and I think, yeah, but maybe for the students would be better to tell them first step, second step, third step. And for example, we created, we call it 8 pyramids of composition, of architecture composition. And we defined it 8 pyramids. The first slide. Yeah, because of you. I know that I was listening to your lecture. That without light you see nothing. Yeah, so the first shape is light. The second is a shape, because when there is a light you see some shapes. Then it's a space. When you have a space, you can look at the noise, the acoustic. Yeah. Then you go to materials. With the materials you can go to colors. Then you can involve art and design, and the last should be a nature. And if you take those 8 pyramids of architecture composition in our applied psychology, you can enter any places in the world. And somebody asks you, what do you think about this space? And you can immediately check what is wrong. And not, for example, forgot acoustic. Because acoustic is a very important part of the harmony in architecture. But whenever you visit any restaurant in Czech Republic, acoustic is nowhere. So we are talking about shaping the space, about responsibility of architects, and then architecture without acoustic solution. So something is wrong. So we need to go a little bit back to origin, to inspiration, to psychology, to responsibility, to recognize what it means, responsibility, how to teach responsibility, and then again reshape the architecture. So this is the way how you can think about it. And the golden ratio is one of these principles. I would like to take my team and to make a research if there is a real impact, if we can really recognize the golden ratio inside of the design in architecture.
So I will take care of that. So
Thank you.
There is a school that I did in Prague, and all the school is based in the golden ratio. But maybe because in that time I need a tool to help me to design, and the golden ratio was the tool to design the space. Just not because I didn't know how to design it or what I wanted, but I need to control the proportions.
Yeah.
So I believe we can do that tour because every single room, in terms of plan or section or view, is based in the golden ratio in different scales.
Yeah.
In different scales.
Of course.
Yeah. So that, and then we can have the discussion with the teachers, with the students, with the kids, how they do feel the space. Yeah, what they feel in that school, and then maybe you can have a feedback that you can react and understand the way that they perceive the space. Yeah, we can do that. But when we speak about tools of architecture, a lot of times I take the 10 books of Vitruvio to classes. So it's like 2,000 years old book from Vitruvio, and the principles are there. The golden ratio, the classics, the columns, the proportions, everything is there. So what we are doing, we are not like inventing nothing. Like just study what was done, because the proportions, they were already thoughtful. They are principles. They are ways of doing it. But then it's about, again, the knowledge that has to be achieved in the students, in society, to design. And the golden ratio, or Fibonacci, that I use as well.
How do you use Fibonacci?
I use Fibonacci. How to use it?
Yeah, how you use it?
How you use it? So Fibonacci, it's like it's close to the.
It converges to golden ratio. Yeah. So it's Fibonacci sequence in mathematics.
In some.
So there is a space in Prague that I designed based in the Fibonacci.
Okay. So the proportional spaces differ. They start with Fibonacci 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, etc.
And it's designed by that.
By the Fibonacci
stone walls, and the stone walls were built according to that principle.
Okay.
But just not because of the principle, but because of the genealogy of the place. So he's asking for that.
Okay.
Like our body, when it comes there and you turn, you just look around and you look up.
Okay.
So he's just inviting you further to do that movement. So you combine a kind of sensibility of understanding the place plus a solution that helps you to design it. So, but first you come there and your body should react.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's first on the intuition, and then once you get the understanding of the place, then you apply some of the principles.
Exactly.
I think actually, like, all of the cathedrals and churches or temples are based on the sacred geometry, right? All the sacral architecture. That's why actually we feel we have such an emotion when we enter those spaces, because there is something deeper in that space that talks to us on. And so when you enter Notre Dame de Paris, right? That's the unique experience. So that's why when I work on that reconstruction for Notre Dame de Paris, I studied the plans. I studied how on which it was based, and I tried to read the messages on the facades and the symbols, and it was really interesting. And so I think the sacral architecture and the culture architecture has this potential, this huge potential to give the message, like, deeper, communicate with your soul, not only the rational.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Like in that school that I was mentioning, there was a challenge to do a chapel there. And the chapel, in fact, came from the sensibility of the place. There was like a kind of light coming inside from two moments, and all was drafted how the light should come to the space, how the axes they should be given,
Right.
how the horizontality and verticality they should play together, and should be a kind of balance of elements that when you come there you feel that you are still in the sacred place. Yeah, and it was a roof of an ordinary building. But nowadays, you come there and you feel it as a chapel. At 8:30 in the morning, if you open the door, there is a cross projected by the sun to your feet. Because it was designed that in the morning the sun should cross the wall and project the cross when you enter in the chapel.
In the morning, which part of the year? Every
Like it's
a whole year.
It's all year. It's just in different positions, but it comes to that moment.
And when you speak about these feelings, and it can be used in teaching of the students, because you enter some space and you feel something. What you feel is some sort of footprint of the source of the inspiration, which was touching the architect who shaped the space. And when you take this, let's say, formula and start to think about it, you can bring it back to communication abilities of the students about the architecture. Because students need to know how to communicate. This is the most important knowledge of being architect. And we teach them that you come from the source of your ideas towards to inform the clients, for example, or present your projects. And the way is that you have to not make the mistake to only show the plan of the building and start to speak about. You have to first open mind of the client through the sharing the spirit of touch by the inspiration which involve you to create the idea. So, for example, you can come to some client and say, hey, I was thinking about your project and I didn't know how to do that. So I was walking through the forest and then I met some old lady and she was telling about her small cottage and what she's doing there. And I figured out, oh, that's exactly what you are looking for. And then I immediately ran back to my office and drew this idea. And it was absolutely fitting what you needed, your demands. And then when the client is connected with you, you can open the plan and he will understand what is behind. Yeah, so this is what you feel when you enter. We can call it genius loci or any other names, but if you feel anything, the touch is through the source of inspiration, through the author shaping the space, because it's not involvement of you, but what was coming through you.
But I also feel that more important than architecture are the people who live in that space, right? That's why I try to first feel and like get as much information about the clients as possible, to be like a psychologue, to know exactly how the family is living, what they need, what they want, or what they don't even know that they want, and I can like propose them, and then to shape the space just for them. So each building is completely different, each house is completely different for this unique family or for this unique client. And when they live there, the building should be just not stronger than the client. The client is the main person or the main actor in the theater. The building is just the set of the theater.
Yeah.
And also, what about the purpose of place? Let's say that we have a place which is primarily designed for people to be thinking, another place for artistic expressions, yet another is obviously for movement. So are there some generic ideas how to adjust to that? If it's for more brain to focus or more open to philosophy?
They are like for artists, they prefer to have higher ceilings because you feel inspiration coming. For me, it works great if I have a view like that I see far away. I see the horizon that we discussed in the morning, like ocean or sea horizon.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And the engineers, or the rational way of thinking, the people who do this repetitive work, they need lower ceilings. For example, in Intel, in the headquarters of Intel, they did like high ceilings, and the engineers, they were decreasing the ceilings with some cupboards because they couldn't concentrate. So they were like,
really, this is interesting. So for an artist to express, you want obviously a big space, but for rational thinking, you want. I haven't thought of that. That's,
I studied that, so I found it interesting, and
there are researches about it that they use this different height of ceiling, and they give them mathematic tests, and it was absolutely with the high level not good for mathematics. And
that's funny.
So, it exists.
But the view should inspire. I love views. Even if I do some intellectual work, I still would like to see.
It doesn't hurt, right, to have a beautiful view. I agree.
I think there is obvious what you prefer. You see the nature. So this is manifestation of you. here. So, anyway, we wanted to we asked architects about the quality of architecture, and we made a research. We invited 200 architects from, I don't know, 45 countries, and we asked them write down the pyramids of quality of architecture, and we received, I don't know, 1,900 or something like that answers. Then we use artificial intelligence because it was a lot of numbers, and we received 4 base pyramids, main pyramids of quality of architecture. And before you was sharing with us the Vitruvius books, and he believed that architecture should be, if I know it well,
Venustas, Ferminitas, Utilitas.
Yeah, so it means useful, beautiful, and stable. Yeah. And then Le Corbusier, he changed it into 2 only: beauty and functions. Yeah, utilize.
So function is stable, and yeah. So
it
the
can
function.
be. Yeah. However, our new research, we have 4.
Which are?
So it's utilize again, then the beauty, of course, but then ecology and craft.
Yeah, but I think that was always part of architecture. You know, whether you look at this beautiful building or the temples in Japan, there is the craftsmanships. They didn't try to make a beautiful building. They just tried to make something that works, right?
If I may, but the craft, I was thinking about their answer. Why craft?
It's a signature.
No, it was not craft, which we know from the ancient work, but it was craft about the maintenance, the technology. Because nowadays, all the buildings we are now creating, or you are creating, are full of technology. And if there are not craftsmen, so people who understand the technology doesn't work, and the buildings are useless. So this is because their answers were more, it is not about how you shape the furniture, so things, but the craft in this, the knowledge, the technology, the materials. So this is meaning of it.
But I also believe that the details, the craftsmanship, the way the materials are to put together, that what makes the beauty. You know, they didn't try to make beautiful things. This is was an ordinary building, but it's just so beautiful because they put attention in every single detail. Somebody really combine it together, and you feel this energy even after hundreds of years. It's the quality that will remain, right? So.
Indeed, beauty. I mean, I think it's one of the principle of our living. We want to create beautiful things because this is what makes us happy, right? This is perhaps one of the purposes of our.
And that's why I think we have to, in the cities, the public spaces are so important.
Yeah. So they should not be just functional, ugly, but they need to inspire people, not to put them down and make us robots. We don't want to be robots, so that's why.
Yeah, and. They are sometimes very dirty, badly maintained, and this decreases our level of beauty, our sophistication, our sensibility to beauty, and also for our children, right? Because we're passing through those places every day, maybe the whole life, and so this decreases significantly our sensibility to beauty. So that's why I'm passing some of the places that are horribly dirty. I prefer just to not look at it and just stare in my feet. Because
we should start some actions in the city. To move the public to do something. You know, like bring the people to the streets, to their streets, that they should belong. They should believe that it's their street.
But they don't understand because, like, for example, if they go through their entire life through a public space that is horrible or not very beautiful,
it's not there. They don't have the attachment.
They don't feel a relationship.
And they think it's normal. They think it's like this everywhere in the world, and that this is the way it's done. So they don't know it can be better. So, for example, when I see Zličín, the bus station, it's a gate to Prague when you arrive from the airport, and that just wants to make me cry. You know, it's just so sad.
But there is a positive mood, I think, because the landscape is now increasing everywhere in the Europe. A lot of cities, Vienna is, for example, it's changed a lot. So there are some movement in the governments, city governments, and because everywhere wherever I see that the city governments, they change some parts, They are beautiful, really beautiful. So I think that now the people are understanding that we need this, again, green nature back to the cities. And so I feel that, but it not comes from the communities. It comes only from the city government, municipalities. The people are not involved.
Passive.
Totally passive. Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes, like the biggest disasters can actually help the city, right? In San Francisco,
Sure, because you built it new, right?
And
there was
Carlin,
the big earthquake, and so they didn't rebuild the highway along the coast, and they built a beautiful 15 kilometers park along the coast. Or Carlin, I live in Carlin. I go to work. I have 8 minutes to go to work. You know, so it's really comfortable.
Yeah, Carlin has changed so much, right, compared to past. It was ugly, and now it's just rose up.
And there is the river, right? There is the promenade. The kids are playing. They are safe. There are no cars. So this is what I mean by the quality of public space.
But you see why it happened. It was destroyed, and now the city government and developers, they decided to make it better. So I'm positive in that way.
Yeah, like when there was this tornado in Moravska Novi Ves, Ruska, and the other villages, we took the action that with the Chamber of Architects and with the other colleagues, we drove straight to Moravska Novi Ves to make a kind of evaluation of the situation. And in fact, we tried to give this positive input, saying like you have a ground zero from where you can rebuild now your village. Whatever that was not functional, now take it as a positive. There is a ground zero from where you can draft your new village. But don't delete, don't destroy it. Your past.
Yeah, sure.
So we took in two actions. One was about to understand that in the short time, because people, they need house, they need to rebuild the houses, we tried to make kind of regulations and the methods how they could rebuild the houses. We gave, for example, the idea that they should use just 4 colors. Just to don't have the greens, the yellows, the blues.
Thank you.
So we create the Tornado 1, Tornado 2, Tornado 3, Tornado 4 that they could choose. So just to make sure that the village will not be a Disneyland in few months. So we create few actions that just educate it and control how the city could be maintained from the past. And in other way, we brought the students and the colleagues from our faculty to the field, and we draw for them possibilities how the public space could be transformed. Because in the end, the public space is the last one that will be solved. Because
there will be no money
when there is emergency, you need to solve your place first. But then for us it was, okay, so now we have the time to plan, to propose, we will present it, and if they want to use it, they have it for free, a lot of ideas, good ideas, and they can just maybe create a better space for the future. So, and this is like an action to the to the context, to the public space, and I believe that we can actively do that from the sources or tools that we have around us, and can be with community, can be with the schools, can be with the local authorities, can be just in different scales. It depends how much can we handle, in fact, as individuals or as a group. But if we have a drive that plan it in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, people, they merge in your goal, in your wish and your vision, and it's a fact that they help and they come with you. We are building, I was mentioning, the school in Prague for the Augustiniani, and it's already 15 years of construction. But it's not about the project, it's about building it together from the scratch until 400 children.
But it's mainly about you. It's your spirit.
I feel it. It's my spirit. It's the spirit of Juan, that is the priest of the community, is the spirit of the community. And in the end, when we built the first classroom in 2 months, it was July, August, because we want to open in September. It was the hand of the parents. So we have the chance to do things, and we can change it together. But if we have someone, and these we take the politicians, authorities.
Yeah.
These are the leaders. But I don't mind to follow other leaders if they drive me to things that I believe. But all of us, we can do that.
Yeah.
And then we can really do the things. That's it.
I believe that the people have a huge power and their authenticity to change their neighborhood, to change the city. When I was living in Shanghai, there was an old factory complex that they wanted to turn it down, and then there were some squatters, some artists who tried to doing paintings, and then all of a sudden it became really like the hip place to be, and everybody wanted to go there, and then there were coffee shops, and then it just became too big and too important and too beautiful to turn it down. So the Shanghainese government said, oh, let's make it like the project for the expo, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like the best thing in the city. And I think it's about the authenticity of the people who are proud of their neighborhood, and they want to show who they are. Like if it's a city on the beach, all the surf dudes, right, with the beach board. If those are artists, it's more artistic. It's
we have a beautiful example in Prague that is, let's say, all the development from Penta Group. Around Masaryko. In fact, what I remember the best that changed the place was the manifesto. Manifesto from Martin Barry. Like how that guy brought to the worst place in the city a space that can be public and shared by others. And he, from nothing and from a worst place in the city, he make it the most in the city. Manifesto Market. Nowadays it's in Angel. It was the same principle. It was the same principle. Angel was also a site. And before the development of Angel, Martin Barry as well, I think I don't remember exactly the transition, but
he was an architect as well.
But he's architect. Martin Barry is an architect, landscape architect, not wrong. But also visionary.
Also visionary.
But the intention is in fact to bring people to the worst places of the city and transform it. And it's possible.
So the first, if you have an ugly place, the way to transform it needs to be architect, it needs to come from outside, but at the same time, we would like to invite people as much as possible to motivate them to do something, to express themselves. So people may be passive, closed because it's ugly, but then it starts to evolve.
And I somehow feel that people are afraid to express themselves because during the very long period of time here in this country, if you were different,
it's still happening.
What we're talking about. So it's kind of dangerous, but it would help the environment to have the authenticity.
Yeah, definitely. And after all these steps that were done in that area, just help the developer to make the project, to proceed with the project. Nowadays we have the competition in the different areas, and it is just great that they were able in 15 years to transform, for me, one of the most difficult places in Prague to the most maybe the most ugly, I'm not sure, but the most problematic, because it was the transition of Karlin, of the center, and there is a solution being now applied to transform the public space itself.
And then all of a sudden it's not dangerous anymore. It becomes safe environment, right? And people want to live there, and it becomes a really cool district, and you want to be part of it. So,
but it's very nice to see the role of architects, because architects needs to be leaders for the clients, for the people, to lead them to switch their wishes into what they need, because clients, but quite often, they want something what they really don't need. And this is the task of architect, to give the experience. Believe me, you don't need this. You need this because it works. So this is our job as an architect, for the community, for the clients, for the society, for the cities.
To inspire.
You mentioned the rule of there were 4 colors. How is it with colors? How much colors can be used in cities so that it's the good balance?
I love French villages. because you go there and they are like all the houses are pretty much the same with the stone, with the small windows.
Yeah.
There is nobody trying to say, I'm so different, I'm so much better than you. My house is green, like or purple, and my windows are huge. They are just fine, like to be. They don't have the ego to show like I'm better than you. I deserve better.
I'm not sure if it's about the ego. Like I don't say nothing wrong. I believe the colors is just the answer to the contrast that doesn't exist in the villages or the cities. We were speaking about light and about natural light. Like we in Portugal, if we paint all the houses in white, they are not white. They are white and black and the gray because during the day they transform by the shadows and by the movement of the light. So the buildings are not stable. They are moving during the day. In the Czech, everything I would say is more stable because of the continuous light that is also sharp, and the days of the year are more, I would say, dark, gray. But then you need to compensate it. But you cannot compensate with stone because it's too expensive. Maybe you cannot compensate it with other material, but you can compensate it with color. I assume that can give the feeling that you want to make it prettier. Yeah, and it's not about the ego.
Warm.
Yeah, more or warm or more prettier. This is like is my color that I like.
Maybe personal.
Yeah, more personal. But I don't think this is ego. It's just I wanted to make it nicer for me. We as architects, it's my perception. Yeah, but but when we did these 4 colors, it was just a kind of limits, simplifying. Like try to choose from this palette or similar, but don't go to the other palettes. Otherwise, you cannot control it. You have like the yellow with the green with the red, and it becomes like awful because in fact you see the village that lost in 1 year the character that had in the past.
Exactly. And I think like the landscape of Czech Republic is so beautiful. At the same time, there is a huge scar from the communism, that the villages were so deeply destroyed, touched by the communist era, that we see those huge like shopping malls right in the center of small villages.
The ugly functionalistic buildings.
Yeah, not even functionalistic. They are just postmodern, whatever. And
now you touch.
Okay, sorry.
No.
What architects love.
So I think it's been 36 years since revolution, and it will take really long time to make it to go back to its original charm, if ever we get back to it.
I believe yes. I believe like that we have the time of educating the new generations, that they can proceed with what we are trying to implement nowadays. Yeah. So I hope that when I will be older and I will be still coming to Czech Republic, there is some consequence of all this period that is challenging. When I moved to Czech Republic, honestly, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, I had like this shock. Like, Jesus, I'm in the past. No, it was like you cross the borders and like, I'm in the past. But I didn't took it as a bad thing. I said like, so much potential.
I wanted to say
all my life. Because it's
wait, you said 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But imagine how it was during communist time in 89.
I cannot imagine.
When you crossed the border with West Germany, like it was suddenly a totally new world appeared. Yeah, it was like gardens and stuff.
Yeah.
When you came to the socialist, ugly. I mean, Prague is an absolutely beautiful city, but it was all shady and dirty.
And gray.
You couldn't see the beauty. It's so much better now when it grew.
Yeah, but we have the chance to see the beauty. We can perceive that space can be shining again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? So when you cross all these villages around, they are just beautiful, or they can be really beautiful. Yeah, you cross the border to Austria, and all the space are clean, organized.
Yeah,
the houses are very similar. Like if you see the houses of Czechs or Austrians, like okay, there are like a few differences, but in general, we are comparing similar things. But if you organized the roads, the public, the paths, the squares, you get the quality of villages that are comparable with the best villages in Austria or in German or whatever. So the potential is there.
Yeah, but still the public space makes it a huge difference.
That's
like
it.
the pavement, the quality of pavement, the quality, the benches, like those things that you can touch, you see, that makes the difference.
So for like the Czech city, what would you use as pavements? For example, I would think that like the stones go to.
It's so beautiful, but so expensive, right?
Oh, okay,
so
it's
the
about the
mayor
price.
will tell you, "Oh no, we don't have the budget for that." So
Okay.
That is not solution, because architecture is really expensive, really,
And that's why it has to be sustainable, because we're building it for a long time, generation to come, right? Like this house.
But maybe we can start to speak a little bit about the harmony, because when you look at any construction, if you repeat the same, for example, windows, like in administration buildings, they are boring. When you walk around, I have a office in Strossmayerovo náměstí, and there are very nice buildings, and I'm there 25 years, and quite often I only look and I see something new. Each time there are new details I didn't see, or I didn't know that it exists there. And I'm there 25 years. Let's imagine that you are in, for example, Karlín. There is modern shape. You will never have this experience. You look at that, the same windows everywhere.
Because
so what is harmony?
Those are the buildings that were designed for the perception of the city from the car and with the speed of 50 kilometers per hour. But when you walk, you have a different speed, so you perceive the things a different way.
So what is the harmony? That's the question.
Yes, the harmony is part of the beauty, right?
Yes, of course.
But the harmony, you have it as rhythms. It's the rhythms of the city. Like you have harmony in the music when you have the perception that you can hear that type of music, because it has a rhythms, it has a way of perceiving that. Architecture, you have the same. Like you cannot just make everything different, trying to make it everything nice.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Definitely.
It's about to create like a kind of music of the city, where you need to merge things that have to be stable with other things that they have to come out. So you have like the music of the city has to be played according to the design of that street, of that square, of that avenue. And you have to perceive that you cannot just create everything different or with its own harmony. No, the harmony comes from the whole composition.
Actually, for me, there are two types of architecture. There is contextual architecture and generic architecture. Generic architecture is something that can be used in New York and in Singapore. And contextual architecture, I think it's really good for Europe. So when you're designing in Prague, you should really take care like what's in the neighborhood, what's around, and to blend in and not try to shoot, oh, I'm the best architect ever, right? Just to be humble and just to like
respect the
place and the environment.
I think that harmony comes with the balance of unity, because there are three laws of unity. The first is unity of subject and object. For example, me and my work, my building. There is the second unity, is unity of contradictions, black and white, then day and night. So this should be in some unity, or harmony. And the last one is the most important, that the stability of the whole is through the differences of the parts. For example, our body. We are full of something what is burning and dying inside. There are a lot of movement inside, but the entire body is one alive entity. So this is the stability. So harmony is sort of stability of a different pieces, which are in the something what is positively in one unity, which we call harmony.
For me, harmony is also the authenticity. Like if you have a cell in the stomach, the cell is not pretending to be the cell in the knee, right? So authenticity, like if you use this kind of material, you use this color, the nature color. You're not gonna paint it green or yellow or purple. Like you go. That's what I learned in US, that you use the color that's nature, authentic, and that comes the power, the strength.
And
with it.
when you take a flower, look at all parts of the flower. They are no the same.
Yeah.
None of them. The tree, everything is a little bit different, a little bit, but there is in total
There is harmony, beautiful harmony.
Yeah, no copy.
Because the beauty, it's not in perfection, it's in the imperfection. Right?
This is actually it's true. It's being said. It's something is too perfect, then it loses part of the
because
beauty.
it's too artificial.
It's so it's artificial. So for our brain, it's
That's what I was writing in the book. That why do you love the glass crystal, right? That's blown. It's not perfect. Each single glass is a little bit different. They're imperfection, but it was created with the intention. Somebody took it in their hand. The energy is in it, and it's not a robot who was just cutting it off.
But however, we can go back to that we don't have money for the nice stones, but we have money to put their grass and some flowers. So we can have a white wall, but with some greenery, and it can be beauty.
Yeah, and also
a solution.
I think we can have maybe less common space with higher quality than a lot of like public space with the bad quality.
Yeah, because then you can educate people.
Yeah,
that it's worthy to take care about it.
Yeah, and then
we
they
are
care.
Back again in responsibility.
And they
you need
connection.
You need to give them the drive license for the city.
Yeah, I agree.
They need to study being responsible. We can do that.
Sure.
Course for them, for the people, to take care about their city.
But for that, I think maybe you can help me, because like every single house or every single space has a fence that nowadays is being built with concrete blocks or concrete walls. It seems that everybody has to protect their own land. And there is no sense of that the land is part of all, in fact. So because this is like a very important thing, that is if you close inside of your property, or if you allow that your property merge with the property of the neighbor or with the property of the city, and this systematic building of walls that nowadays is like very common. Like people, they build their own house, but they put these panels of concrete around the plot. But in fact, they are like all the time closing the space.
That has been the case in the Czech Republic, I believe, during communism as well. I don't think it's anything new. But against your point, it is very different in like Portugal. Probably it's open the space, and France, it's true. And we built fences.
You built a lot of fences. Like you go to Austria, and almost the landscape is merging with the neighbor, with your garden, and it's a kind of fluent green areas or public space that you don't feel that everything is just divided by different owners or different individuals that want to control their little world that is not part of the biggest area of the village. So but there is no regulation for that.
No, I think that we need to teach architects to speak with the people, with their clients, and to say them, you don't need these walls. This is our task again, to start to educate people, to think about it, to teach them. And first we need to teach ourselves. The circle.
But
Yeah,
still, it's
come
not so
back.
bad, because when you look at
No.
the architecture in Brazil, there are like walls 4 meters high.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
So-
But
they
that's
are not safe.
it's a mafia structures, no?
No,
No, no.
it's just a normal dwelling. Like it's so dangerous there, so you really have
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah, that's
live behind the
yeah,
yeah.
of course the security is
Mm.
yeah. So perhaps we can envision how the future may look like, the positive future of architecture, of people living in. Let's shape a vision here.
I think it's really based on the location. That's why I love to travel, because when you go to Asia, you don't see the same cities like in Europe or in South America. I think the authenticity, we should keep that, and that should be the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So that would make you wanna travel and to discover the world
Mm-hmm.
and the differences
Mhm.
that makes that beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's envision. I believe that people can get rid of fears, and we can come together. I mean, it is a task now, because what is happening is a global change, and I believe we will be successful. That we can use our tools and make it happen, and unite with people, and lose the separation and come more together. So then I can see from our talk what will be a really great. Future is that the people, even if they are in cities, they can share the streets and they can play in the streets. So
Yeah.
that is, I think, a good way to come closer to the traditions in Portugal or Spain.
Is about the adjustment of the culture
Yeah.
of the place. Yeah, so that you really understand that you don't own 50 square meters,
Yeah, that's it.
but you own part of the city. That it's your part of the city. It's your responsibility to take care of that.
Indeed.
And all of us, we can like teach our kids to do so. Like if you walk, like very simple things, paper on the street, you just put it to the garbage. Like you just, children, they will do what they will see us doing.
Yeah.
So it's in our hands, if we are aware of that, to show them how things can be better. And if children, they ask us that they want to go to the street, yes, we should allow them to go. They should go to play down with other neighbor. Like there is no reason. Like Czech is very secure. Czech is amazing. Like you have such a good neighborhoods. You have such a good relation between the people. Even if there is no such a communication as we have in Portugal, Spain, or other countries, like the respect is still there. There's a lot of respect between the people, but the children, they break all the barriers.
Yeah, that this seems to me that it's very unfortunate nowadays that children are more separated. I remember when we were kids, we would go in the streets and we would do stuff, but now children, all they need to be secure, they need to be guided everywhere, and just parents are too precautious, overly too precautious. It's not rational. And also, it seems to me, and that might be the future, that okay, there is a group of children, and then maybe 1 or 2 adults who take care of the kids, and people can share that like that. So it's sharing spaces and also sharing time and taking care of our children. I believe this is the necessary future for us.
Yeah, taking time and share. Yeah, that's what makes it. It's the only answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for this great talk. Let's make our future to go within the line of our thoughts, what we would like to envision for ourselves and for our children. And maybe if you can tell us where people can find you to look at your work and what you are doing.
I have my webpage, evalepetrek.com. So over there you can find all the information what you need and contact on me. And also I'm on the social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Yes, similar as I have my website, Marco Maio Architects. I'm teaching at CVUT as well. So there's like usually group of students that are already joining the classes and the workshops that we are doing there. And so in general, in the social media, also active with the LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook still going. But so you can find me around, and hopefully soon that we can work together.
And me, together with you on inspirele.com and at the university, CTU in Prague, Faculty of Civil Engineer. So this is everybody who wants to meet me. I'm there.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and maybe me as well, Kasua, if you wanna go for internship or get a job there, feel free to contact me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Adam.